vida, mi gente. Much love. Thanks for tuning in once again. Excited about this one, so we can go ahead and finish the book. It's gonna be pretty cool, I guess. This last part, um, the whole book's been pretty interesting. So I hope you guys been enjoying it. Thanks to everybody who shares this kind of information too. That I received a lot from, and anybody else who already knew this information. Doing this video, I know I learned that a lot of people were very in tune to this, and it's just so much deep information. I know it's hard to like put it all out there like that and make all the connections, but we try and we enjoy the journey. We just let the Great Spirit guide us. Wherever two or three are gathered, they say how wise there. What's up? Yeah, we're gonna get started. Thanks for again tuning in. Also, just want to go ahead and remind everybody you can check out this whole book we're about to finish today in parts. I got the playlist. It's called Ancient Ireland. Part 1, Part 2, 3, 4, and we're in Part 5 today. And then we got the 2 Black Irish videos. Yeah, very, very good videos. Check those out. And then we got the 3 parts of Israel in the Nation of Europe. All 3 parts in this playlist. Make sure to check that out. Okay. Make sure to check out the Instagram. We almost there. We got 2,000. We had 11,000, and then Instagram security team hacked us, took everything off, wiped it all, and then they try to extort me, talking about, hey, we'll sell it back to you if you want. We're like, no thanks. I was like, no thanks. You already wiped it clean. I already know what you did. So we almost there. If you have the Instagram, check it out. Got a lot of interesting images I'm gonna be posting there and everything. So yeah, check it out. It's been a long journey. All right, Ireland, Ur of the Chaldees. Shout out to all the Irish brothers and sisters in the house, and anybody from the British Isles, anybody from Europe, anybody from any other part of the world that's not in the Americas. Thanks for tuning in. And then shout out to the home team. Shout out to the home team. Yeah. But right now we're talking about Ireland. Ireland. And we're in this great book again, Ireland, Ur of the Chaldees. Big shout out to Anna Wilkes. Hey, big shout out to Anna Wilkes for providing the book, so we can have one place to go to and then verify everything and, go on our own research. So shout out to, again, Anna Wilkes. Yeah. We're going to go to where we left off in yesterday, in part 4. All right. And again, we've gone over this legend, this history, this truth in other series. Again, Israel and the nations of Europe. When we're talking about the legend of the Lia Fail, or Stone of Destiny, or Jacob's Pillow. Jacob's Pillow. All right. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Hope you enjoy. Let's try to stay on topic in the chat. Any distractions or anything like that, if you go, way out of topic 2, 3, 4, 5 times, then we might time you out. It's not impersonal. Don't take it personal. I got a lot of complaints last time. Just know I got moderators too, guys. It's not me. I know I can't read and check the chat at the same time. So we got some good moderators in the house, and they're respectful, and they try to just make sure nobody comes with any funny business and stuff like that. So we keep it cool, keep it respectful, and keep it sacred, because this is some pure knowledge right here, some real knowledge right here. We're gonna start right here. Again, we're all the way in page 169, where we left off yesterday. And it says here, Legend of the Lia Fail, or Stone of Destiny. All right. As Ireland was called Innis Fail, or the Islands of Destiny, by the Tuatha De Dananns, the tribe of Dan, so had the stone they are said to have brought with them been called Lia Fail, or the Stone of Destiny. The ancient kings of Ireland, both of the Danann and Milesian race, used to sit upon it when being crowned. This stone The stone was sent to Scotland in the 6th century for the coronation of Fergus, who was of the Milesian race, and was used for many centuries at the coronation of the Scottish kings as Scone, from the Abbey of which place it was taken by Edward I in his wars with Scotland, and conveyed to Westminster Abbey, where it has since remained. It is called Jacob's Stone, from him, as it is said, having rested his head upon it during his sleep at Bethel, or Luz, alright? That's why it's called the pillow, Jacob's pillow. Bethel or Luz was in Canaan, ancient America, and there Jacob planted a pillar. Before his departure for Ur, before he went to where? Chaldea, which shows that a second pillar he left, uh, and what we know about Chaldea, Ireland, and before he went from ancient America to Ireland. Pretty interesting, huh? Which shows that second pillar he left behind him in Ireland. But the first was in Luz, before his coming to the country of his forefathers. The second was in Ur, before he left to plant a third on his return to Canaan. Dr. O'Connor, in his account of the Irish manuscript, at Stowe states that the Lia Fail was a remote period removed from the royal rath or mound at Tara, and taken to the kings at Cruachan or Cruachan in Clongnat, and that because of that it ceased to emit its usual sound called Jess or guess, which signifies a spell or charm. It was supposed to have been profaned by Cuchulain or Cuchulain, who resented its silence when, according to a note in the annals of the Four Masters, his friend Fiacha Fion or Fiacha Fion, don't kill me, I might be murdering the Gaelic, was appointed monarch of Ireland in the beginning of the 1st century. And the stone did not resume its accustomed sound until the inauguration of Khan of the 100, or Khan, priest king of the 100 battles in the 2nd century, he being a legitimate monarch. In the beginning of the 6th century, Myrtle Mac Irka, who was then reigning monarch of Ireland, had a brother named Fergus Mac Irka, who became king of the Irish colonies and settled in Dalriada in Albany, afterwards called Scotland. He requested his brother to send over the Lia Fail that he might be crowned upon it, and so feel, in accordance with belief in the power of the stone, secure upon his throne. Some say with O'Flaherty in his Ogygia that the Stone of Destiny was not taken to Scotland until the 9th century, when Aud Finlioth, king of Ireland, sent it to Kenneth Mac Alpin, his father-in-law, who was crowned king of Scotland. Keating and Charles O'Connor mention the Lia Fail. The former gives a version in Irish of the old rhyme attaching to it. Oh, I'm not even going to try to read that, Peter. Sinead, spewed sour fiend, mundug Brech and fishing. Well, you guys, who knows the Gaelic, you guys see what it is. I should have you on these ones. That is the English of it. Unless the fixed decrees of fate give way, the Scots shall govern, the sceptre sway. Where'er this stone they find in its dread sound obey. Hector Boetius renders it into Latin. Alright, and here's the Latin. Thus translated, if fate's decrees be not announced in vain, where'er this stone is found, the Scots shall reign, shall reign. This stone was preserved with the greatest care and veneration in Scotland from the 6th to the 13th century, and was looked upon by her people as the palladium of their kingdom, from a very ancient prophecy that the Scotch or Milesian race would continue to rule while it was in their possession. It was kept first at the monastery of St. Columcille at Iona in the Hebrides, afterwards at Dunstafnage in Argyllshire, Argyllshire, the earliest royal seat of Scottish kings of the Irish race. Perhaps the reason that O'Flaherty believes it was not taken from Ireland until the 9th century was his mistaken its removal from the monastery of St. Columcille at Iona to Scone by Kenneth MacAlpin, King of Scotland and conqueror of the pigs, of the Chaldees, of the Chaldees, Chaldees. Conelan observes that some have considered that it was first brought to Ireland by the Danans from the cave of Canaan. From a cave in Canaan, from tribe of Dan, huh? Hence the name of Jacob's stone. We need not reiterate our opinion here that it was one of the three stones set up by Jacob. It is strange how opinions vary about this stone. Some writers, notably Dr. Petrie, have told us that the stone has never been removed from Ireland, and that it is actually yet to be seen standing upright on one of the mounds of Tara. Interesting, huh? But the majority and the most trustworthy of Irish and Scotch antiquaries have proved it to be no other than that led into the coronation chair at Westminster Abbey or Abbey, where the English, you know, now get coronated, right? It is one primeval monument which binds together the whole empire. The iron rings, the battered surface, the crack which has all but rent its solid mass asunder, bear witness to its long migrations. It is thus embedded in the heart of the English monarchy, an element of poetic, patriarchal heathen times, which, like Arauna's rocky threshing floor in the midst of the Temple of Solomon, carries back our thoughts to races and customs now almost extinct, a link which unites the throne of England to the traditions of Tara and Iona, and connects the chain of our complex civilization with the forces of our Mother Earth, the stocks and stones of savage nature. Dean Stanley makes Will Rishanger the oldest writer upon the subject of the Lia Fail. He confines himself to Scottish accounts only, and of course loses the advantage of the older Irish references to it. It is strange how the reverend and learned gentleman has been led, like most of the writers of Scottish history, to refer to the statement of Rishanger that Milo, king of the Scots in Spain, gave it to his favorite son, Simon Brech, the first king of the Scots in Ireland, and that Simon Brech placed it in Tara, where it remained until it was brought by Fergus, the son of Erc of Ferchard. All Irish accounts agree that Milo, as Milesios, here termed, had only three sons, Heber, Heremon, and Jar. No one knows at the present time from what fertile brain was born Simon Brech. Was there ever in the flesh a king of the Celts, or of any nation of them named Simon Brech? The name simply means the speckled sun, or firmament, from Samen, the sun, and Brak, speckled. Philobiblius mentions a Baal Samen, to which the Syrians and Canaanites lifted up their hands. Saman in Irish mythology signifies the divinity, who presided at the judgment of departed souls. When writers of Scottish history and interpreters of her tradition agree to divest themselves of national prejudice, they will, and not till then, look to Ireland for an explanation of matters that chiefly illustrate the early history of the Scot. Fergus, who succeeded in getting the Lia Fail over to Scotland, is quoted by Dean Stanley and others beside as son of Urch or Irk, as it is given in Irish. But this Urch or Irk was or has no older meanings than the sun, heaven, speckled. It may be indeed, we believe it is, only another spelling of the word Brach. For various meanings of the word, see O'Reilly's dictionary. The phrase Simon Brech was misunderstood as meaning a king. It may, however, have been applied as a cognomen to some early king. Thus, it would be a very natural way of expressing admiration of a good and wise monarch to say that he was the light or the son of the firmament or of heaven. He was Simon Brech. In some respects, what is narrated of the pillow of Jacob strangely coincides with what we are told of St. Columba's pillow. Hijack City. Jacob slept upon his stone pillow and had a dream, in which he saw the angels of God ascending and descending from heaven to earth and from earth to heaven. Visions of angels and of heaven seem also to have formed a primary notion in connection with St. Columba's pillow of stone. preserved for a long time as a monument beside his grave. Cumine the White, successor of Saint Columba or Saint Columb Kyle, Kil, according to the usual spelling, in the monastery of Iona and Adamnan, the abbot of the same place from AD 679 to 704, speak of the stone of Iona or Saint Columba's pillow. Adamnan follows Cumine in nearly the same words and tells us how visions of angels floated before Saint Columba's eyes in death, how his church was lighted up by their glory, and that as they carried his soul to heaven, they illumined with their splendor the sky over the sea, or illumined, and unto Donegal and Tyrone. The two accounts may refer to different stone pillows. At any rate, the best authorities have traced to almost a certainty the stone of Tara, Iona. It was deposited in Iona when it first was received from Ireland, and Scone to Westminster Abbey, to which place it has been ever since the time of Edward the First. That the people of London prized the stone much we have ample evidence, for when the Scots showed they cherished the hope of recovering it, the Londoners gave it unmistakable attachment, no doubt influenced by the mystery and sacredness believed to have belonged to it from the time of Jacob. Dean Stanley gives an account of this. A solemn article in the Treaty of Northampton, which closed the long war between the two countries, required the restoration of the lost relics to Scotland. Accordingly, Edward III, then residing at Bardesley, directed his writ under the Privy Seal to the abbot and convent of Westminster, commanding them to give the stone for this purpose to the sheriffs of London, who would receive the same from them by indenture, indenture, and contract, and cause it to be carried to the Queen Mother. All the other articles of the treaty were fulfilled, even the black rod or rood, the sacred cross of Holy Rood, Holy Wood, Holy Rod, Holy Wood, Holy Rod, which Edward first had carried off with the other relics, was restored. But the stone of Scone, on which the kings of Scotland used at Scone to be placed on their inauguration, the people of London would by no means whatever allow to depart from themselves. Continuing, it says here, Geological account of the coronation stone by Professor A.C. Ramsay, all right, director of the Geological Survey of England, 1865. That's when he said this, right? It says, at the request of the Dean of Westminster, I joined a party for the purpose of examining the coronation stone in Westminster Abbey in June 1865. The following remarks are the results of my observations. The coronation stone consists of a dull reddish or purplish sandstone with a few small embedded pebbles. One of these is a quartz, and two others of a dark material, the nature of which I was unable to ascertain. They may be Lydian stone. The rock is calcareous, and is of the kind that masons would call freestone. Chisel marks are visible on one or more of its sides. A little mortar was in the sockets in which the iron rings lie, apparently not of very ancient date. To my eye, the stone appears as if it had originally been prepared for building purposes, but had never been used. It is very difficult to settle the geological formation to which any far transported mass of stone may belong, especially when the history of the mass is somewhat vague in its earlier stages. All right, they're saying you can't really prove where it's kind of coming from. Is that, I don't know where that's what he's saying, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you can't say, oh, it definitely came from the Middle East over there in Palestine today. We know ancient Canaan, ancient Canaan was in the Americas, the real promised land, holy land. So the country around Scone is formed of old red sandstone, and hints of different portions of that formation are so various that it is quite possible the coronation stone may have been derived from one of its strata. The country round Dunstafnage also consists of old red sandstone, reddish or purplish in hue, and much of it conglomerate near Oban, Dunolly, and in other places. All right. Now, just for a second, now imagine Shout out to Paul. Imagine if this was a geopolymer somebody made. You know, you know, it's just we're just saying. In Maculla's Western Isles of Scotland, there is a note in which writing of the coronation stone, and when I say that, I mean an ancient geopolymer. Ancient. I'm not talking about modern, right? So, Maculla, right, in the Western Isles of Scotland, he notes in which writing of the coronation stone, the stone in question is a calcareous sandstone, exactly resembling that which forms the doorway at Dunstafnage Castle. There can be little doubt that the castle was built of the rocks of the neighborhood. The sandstone strata of which are described in a letter now before me by my colleague, Mr. Jeske, is dull reddish or purplish. This precisely agrees with the character of the coronation stone itself. Maculla does not mention how he is certain how the stone in question, the coronation stone, is calcareous. This description, however, is correct. When the stone was placed on the table in the Abbey, the lower part of it was swept with a soft brush, and as many grains of sand were thus detached from the stone as would cover a sixpence. Among these was a minute fragment of the stone itself. These were tested for me in Dr. Percy's laboratory by Mr. Ward and found to be slightly calcareous. The red color and matter is peroxide of iron. There can be no doubt that the stone thus brushed off the lower surface of the stone truly represents the matter of which the mass is composed. It was simply loosened by old age, and when examined with the magnifying glass, showed grains of quartz and a few small scales of mica, precisely similar to those observed in the stone itself. On the whole, I incline to think with Maculla that the doorway of Dunstafnage Castle may have been derived from the same parent rock, though as there are plenty of red sandstone in Ireland, from where it is said to have been brought, it may be impossible to prove precisely its origin. Alright, so again, we have plenty of redstone here, I'm just saying. But yeah, interesting, right? It is extremely improbable that the stone has been derived from any of the rocks of the hill of Tara, from whence it is said to have been transported to Scotland. For they, on the authority of Mr. Jukes, director of the Geological Survey of Ireland, are of Carboniferous age, and as explained in one of the memoirs of the Irish Survey, do not present the texture of red color so characteristic of the coronation stone. Neither could it have been taken from the rocks of Iona, which, on the authority of my colleague, Mr. Geikie, consists of a flaggy micaceous grit of nessus or gneiss. There is no red sandstone on it, so far as I know. Indeed, I am quite sure there is none. That it belonged to the rocks originally around Bethel is equally unlikely, since according to all credible reports they are formed of strata of limestone. The rocks of Egypt, as far as I know, consist of new Mulitic limestone, of which the Great Pyramid is built, alright? So it's not from there. And though we know of crystalline rock, such as sienite, etc. So, shout out to Paul again. All that over there is looking like geopolymer. Alright, he went up close to it, boots on the ground. It all looks like geopolymer. In Egypt, I have never heard of any strata occurring there similar to the red sandstone of the coronation stone. Alright, it's not from there. Dean Stanley expresses himself upon this. The conclusions are as follows. The stone is certainly from Scotland, probably from Scone. Probably. We have given the above account of the geological examination of what is called the stone of Scone, in order to show that there has been considerable interest manifested in this old relic, even by scientific investigators, alright? So this is supposed to be a biblical thing, right? It's not supposed to be real, right? The Old Testament is just supposed to be some religion, right? Well, no, it's actually history, and that's why it's so important and of considerable interest to all these ancient people of the British Isles, guys. It has a real history, right? But it is not a little strange that we find them concluding so erroneously from their own facts as to the elements of the stone and their admission that there is plenty of red sandstone in Ireland, and when we know that the early history of the stone is taken from Irish sources, it is rather illogical, not to say reprehensible, on the part of Professor A.C. Ramsay and those he joined for the purpose of examining the coronation stone, to lead the good Dean Stanley to conclude that the stone is certainly from Scotland, probably from Scone. unless he means that since it was taken to Westminster. Jacob, after erecting the pillar of witness between himself and Laban, offered sacrifice upon the mount, and called his brethren to eat bread, which they did, while tarrying all night in the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up and kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed and returned unto his place. Genesis 31:54 and 55. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of Hawa met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, This is Hawa's host. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. That's 31. Genesis 32, actually, 1 and 2. This place, Mahanim, brings us to consider with it another name we find in chapter 31:47, or Genesis, right? We mean Fegar Sahaduta. Manahim, Jegar Sahaduta. All right, all from Genesis 31, 1 and 2. The above is what is said on these two names by the learned editors of the new edition of the Bible. The equivalent of the word Galid, according to these authorities, is Fegar Sahaduta. In this form, it is capable of explanation in Irish, thus Gal, often in Celtic as, hold on, guys. Before notice, stone, as Lia, from the genitive liag, leech. The cause of this seems to have originated from the stone altar, the altar of burnt sacrifice, being called Gal and Liag, each word expressing both fire and stone or stone altar. There is a word in Irish that signifies a heap. It is liach or liacht. I don't know if I'm even saying that right. Leacd. But it is quite possible to perceive the meaning of Galid without its aid. Okay, so that does look like Galid. So liat, which both expresses fire and stone, or stone and fire, or stone and stone. So have we Galid, or the heap of stones, which may be taken in a figurative sense to mean something to mark or witness, therefore the heap of witness. This is the more likely as there cannot be found in the Hebrew a more satisfactory explanation of the word gal, and Parkhurst means, among other things, a roundish heap of stones, or like rolled or tumbled together. That we have offered a better and truer explanation of the word Galid, said to have its equivalent in the Aramaic, Chaldee, or Syriac word Fegard Sahaduta, we will leave to the sense of the reader. We now direct our attention more particularly to Esau. All right, Esau. The people of Israel kept an account of their father Jacob, but Esau saved the names of the dukes who were his sons. All right, the dukes. Who's the dukes? The dukes come from Esau and his grandsons. There is little or no information in the Mosaic account. Okay, I remember Esau is Jacob's twin. All right, twin brother, same mom, same dad, not a different nation. That's his twin brother. The spirits in them, that's a whole different thing, but they're brothers. After the death of Isaac, Jacob is found in possession of the land of Canaan, and Esau took his wife and his sons and his daughters and all the persons of his house and all his substance which he had got in the land of Canaan, and went into the country from the face of his brother Jacob. All right, he separated himself. Esau said, "Let's go, guys. Let's have nothing to do with Jacob and his descendants, for their riches were more than that they might dwell together, and the land wherein they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle." Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. Genesis 36:6, 7, and 8. The parting of Laban and Jacob took place in 1739 BC according to their chronologies, right? The migration of Esau in 1740 BC, in which year he takes possession of Mount Seir, clearly not the Seir he had resided in, for that was in Canaan. All right, two different Seirs, okay? Canaan, ancient America. The above verses are followed by a list of the generations of Esau and the genealogy of the Edomite kings before referred to, who possessed Teman, Midian, and Dineba. The king of the latter mentioned place the Targum, as we have shown, identifies with Laban. Laban made a solemn covenant on Mount Gilead with Jacob, and he is said by the Targum to have broken it and formed a compact with Esau. All right, this is his uncle. No, this is his wife's, his mom. Yeah, this is his uncle, his mom's brother, right? His mom's brother, Laban, who who kind of dis dissed him and went and united and made a compact with Esau to destroy the children of Jacob or Israel, huh? Laban. Let us conjecture how this may have happened. Jacob left Laban, taking with him great riches, flocks and herds, sheep and goats, and camels and money. And although Esau had accepted his present, yet we are not justified in believing that he had altogether forgotten that his brother had taken away his blessing and his birthright. And yeah, remember that Esau came out first, but the blessing went into Jacob, which, if you start looking into the patterns, many times it goes to the second born in a lot of the biblical stories, if you pay attention. Laban and Esau had each a grievance, and it did not require much to make them break the covenant they had separately made with Jacob, so they may have compacted to destroy his children. We do not read anywhere of the death or burial place of Esau, but we gather from the prophets Amos, Jeremiah, Obadiah, Ezekiel, and Isaiah that the sin of Edom was breaking the brotherly covenant and that the punishment was with fire upon Teman. All right. So remember Jeremiah, Otlam Potlam, Olam Potlam. I might be saying it wrong. That's what it's called in Ireland. The cry, the noise thereof is heard in the Red Sea. Jeremiah 20:21. The punishment of Edom was evidently by earthquake. The earthquake prophesied by Amos and referred to by the other prophets retrospectively. Calmet says, it is a tradition in the East that in the time of Abdon, judge of the Hebrews, a colony of Edomites settled in Italy, that Latinus reigned amongst them, that Romulus derived his origin from them. Romulus, founder of Rome, right? Remember who's Rome? It's Edomites, Edomians, so it kind of makes sense. But remember, they are Hebrews. They just Hellenized, Romanized. They just switching up, switching up and mixing with people they shouldn't be mixing, or we're told, hey, don't try not to mix with these people. So Romulus, huh? Shout out to a person on Instagram putting the connection with possible connection coming out of the tribe of Benjamin, dealing with the wolf, right? Romulus and the two wolves, and the wolf, that's the symbol of Benjamin. So becoming Romanized, mixing with these Edomites, Edomians, and Chazars. Oops, my fault. Don't mention the Chazars. The most famous rabbins, obstinately mention this tradition. The Talmud calls Italy and Rome the most cruel empire of Edom. The Jews assert that the Edomites, having embraced Christianity under Constantine, got to Rome and into the Roman Empire. Others say that an Edomian priest brought Christianity into Rome. Christianity, huh? Remember, they made a pact to destroy the sons of Jacob. Same people that are creating Christianity. Uh-oh. The Edomites are associated with Seir and Mount Seir. The Seir in Canaan would seem to have received its name from Seir in ancient Chaldea and ancient Ireland. At any rate, we find the Horites, a people spoken of in connection with Mount Seir, anterior to the time of Jacob and Esau. There is a word used by some writers as synonymous with Seir. It is Gabal. Talmud says that Gabal instead of Mount Seir sometimes put Mount Gebla. Eusebius and Jerome frequently mention the Gebalim in Edom, and its capital Petra. Gebal signifies a mountain, and the denomination not ancient, since it appears only in Psalms Was that 50 plus 30, 83, I believe, 7, which in our opinion was only written in the time of Josaphat, king of Judah. Smith, speaking on the same subject, says the context of this psalm and of the historical records will justify our assuming the Gabal of the Psalms to be one of the same city with the Gabal of Ezekiel, and not another, as some have supposed in the district, which is by Josephus, Eusebius, and Saint Jerome called Gebalim. The Gabal of Ezekiel was no mean city, from the fact that its inhabitants are written Giblites or Giblites and Biblians in the Vulgate and in the uh, lexicon. We may infer their identity with the Gibeonites, spoken of in connection with Lebanon, Joshua 13:5, Ezekiel 8:13, Kings 2:5, and 18, Ezekiel 27:9. In the Irish and Erse dictionaries, the word seer, as we find it in the Bible, is given in the first as seer, west, occidental, and in the latter as seer, west, westward, all right, west. So what's west from Ireland? What's west from Ireland? If you go west, across the Atlantic, you end up in what? America, Greater, Greater Ireland, future video. Therefore, it is most likely to have been used in this sense by the Hebrews, who would indicate by it the western portion of their country in Europe. Unless this was actually the case, how shall we account for the word having this signification in the Irish? Why are they talking about the West, huh? He can't figure it out. Was it the Hebrew contributed? Was it the Hebrew contributed this word to the Irish vocabulary, or contrariwise? The Irish to the Hebrew vocabulary? In one or other of these ways, the word must have come into use. As to the place called Seir, Hebrew lexicons merely tell us that it is the name of a place in the east, some of them putting it in Canaan, and others merely referring to it as a place mentioned in the Bible. The other word, Gabal, understood to have the same signification as seer, is noticed by Valency and others as the primitive form of the word Gael. If it be so, we can see little difficulty in understanding that Gadal, or pronounced Gael, Gadal, may have in process of time softened into Gabal, and was then pronounced with the B silent, admitting the same pronunciation as Gael. No one will dispute that the Gaels, right, Gaul, Portugal, the Gauls have from the most remote antiquity been the main inhabitants of the west of Europe. These words then being synonymous, it may be assumed that Seir was another of those places that existed in the west of Europe, but which, through some undefined cause and in the confusion of history, has remained unknown to Bible scholars, all right? Unknown. What? What? A place where? West of Europe? A place west of Europe? Do I have to show you guys a map? They don't know. Where's the true Holy Land? Who, as we have shown, almost invariably search the east only for the places mentioned in Scripture. What east? The farthest east? Most of the descendants of Esau and his long line of dukes, all right, who's the dukes, settled in southwestern Europe, but some of them returned to Canaan. Return where? To America. From Exodus 15:15, we find that Moses makes mention of the dukes of Edom, which shows that they were in existence in his time. In Numbers 20:21, we read of a king of Edom, not a duke, refusing to give Israel passage through his border. The title of duke, like most other titles of honor, often at first signified someone distinguished for his mental qualities, after which his immediate descendant inherited the title, who may not have been distinguished by any remarkable excellence of mind, all right? So the word Aleph, translated into English duke, meant originally leader, a chief, a man recognized by his tribe as their head in mental as well as physical quality. The Irish olam, olam, may be understood in the same sense and sometimes applied to a doctor of law, as in the Gaelic olium or olam. Remember olam, they were talking about the mind, the genius of Jeremiah, like it was also a title. He was seen as a sage and very wise too. These dukes are descendants of Seir, as well as of Esau, whom the Mahometans call Ais, the, and add some particulars to his history, as that Jacob, having by surprise obtained the blessing from Isaac, Esau desired his father to beg of Hawa to produce kings and conquerors from his family, since he had prayed for Jacob that saints and prophets should issue from him. This Isaac would not refuse, and God gave Esau a son named Raun, from whom descended the Greek and Roman emperors, so-called Greeks, so-called Romans, right? Coming out of what? Isaac. So they could easily be called also Saxons. These are all sons of Isaac, descendants of Isaac, Saxons too. And that's where a lot of confusion comes in too, with the Saxons. Is any of the descendants coming out of Isaac? In Ezekiel 27:9, and the wise, there is mention made of the ancients of Gabal, and the wise men thereof were indeed thy culkers. And what's it say? In chapter 33, right? 4. No, I'm sorry. 83:4. And of Psalms, Gabal is referred to as one of the confederate nations against Israel. Okay, Psalms 83. Gabal, yeah, that's right. They are in there. And we just broke down the genealogy a little bit. These people, mixing with the Edomites and all that. They went, they got confederate with the Moabites and everybody else. You guys know Psalms 83. What they say, let's erase the name of Israel from being a nation, so they're no longer remembered. That was the pact they made against Israel or the sons of Jacob. And I know a lot of people think this might be just Bible, but it's not. The Old Testament is actually history. They turned it into religion. And then they had to hijack other books, the that Romanized, Hellenized New Testament, which we're looking at right now. They're talking about these are the people, guys, who got together with the Khazars, Cathars, and the Hermetics people. Yeah. And yeah, you get Christianity, all the rest. Yeah, the three main ones. Don't worry, we got videos on that. Don't want anybody to take any of this personal. All right. So as we have before shown, Seer and Celtic means west. All right, west of Ireland, west, and therefore it may be taken to signify a country or place in the west of Europe. Come on now, so-called Atlantis. The fact of it being recorded that there were trade communications between Phoenicia and Britain at this early time, of course, goes a great way to prove that the people of Gebal or Seir were inhabitants of southwestern Europe. The Gabalis and the Ruteni of Strabo bordered on the Narbonites. In Caesar's time there were a Gabali under the supremacy of the Arveni and the Helvi, the Swiss of modern Europe. Again, Strabo tells us that there were silver mines in the countries of the Ruteni and Gabali. Smith Classical Dictionary says that the Gebalines were the Barduli of Spain. During the Middle Ages, the name Ghibellines was applied to one of the opposing factions that kept Europe in anarchy for centuries, called Guelphs and Ghibellines. They were noble and powerful families of northern Italy, the Visconti, Doria, Della, Scala, Pellaviconi were Ghibellines. All right, you guys see some of this genealogy? This is pretty deep right here. Some of these, what they call black nobility, the Italy. And Ezekiel 25 or 27:3, we have, O thou, oh shit. O thou that art situated at the entry of the sea, which art a merchant for the people of many isles. All right, sorry for killing that. From which we suppose it is to be inferred that the people of the Grecian isles in those days traded with Tyre. Of course they did. But we find in the same chapter 12 verse that Tarshish was thy merchant, by reason of the multitude of all kinds of riches. With silver, iron, tin, and lead they traded in thy fairs. This Tarshish, as before shown, was Spain. Alright? Tarshish was Spain, but it is said by some writers that Tarshish included the British Isles, because a lot of metal coming out of the British Isles, alright? That whole region was being referred to as Tarshish. Tarshish, the son of Javan and grandson of Japhet, whose descendants are believed by some to, for the most part, inhabit Europe, particularly the British Islands. So yeah, a lot of Japhet's descendants were kind of there early on. Yeah, before the Fillmores, which are or Fergols, which were Hamites, appeared to be Hamites, and then came the Tuatha Danann and all these other. But it does appear that a lot of the descendants of Japhet were in these areas first. So they might have been in British Islands and gave his name to Tarshish, as we understand it in the south and west of Europe, and mentioned in connection with the men of Dedan, and also with the names of Dan and Javan, which are to be present day almost exclusively native to the west, south, and north of this continent. Haran and Canaan and Eden, which are also found here, are referred to in the 23rd and 24th verses of the last mentioned chapter of Ezekiel, as thy merchants and all sorts of things. Cana is the name of one of the islands of the Hebrides, and it remains to be accounted for by the skeptical how the name Eden or Eden, right? Eden or Eden became prefixed to Berg, and we find it in the name Edinburgh, and how that there are other repetitions of it as names of places in England. All right. All right. So, anybody that's distracted and, don't entertain, try to like just tell them, stay on topic. And if anything, if we have to time out people just so they can stay on topic, it's all good. All right. If you're new to my channel, make sure to catch up. We got over 700 presentations over in the last 6 years. All right. So we ain't talking about crayon colors here or anything like that. Let's stay on topic. Let's stay on topic. All right. This ain't about crayon colors right now, please. Thank you. So in England, there's many of these Edens or Edens. One of her rivers is also called Eden. In Ezekiel 25:12, 13:14, Edom, Teman, and Dedan are threatened with vengeance, the same as prophesied by Amos and Obadiah. This was brought about by the confederacy against Jacob. Kalish, referring to Teman, page 597, says, as to the geographical position of Teman, the Bible offers neither direct nor indirect information, except that it once mentions it in parallelism with the mountains of Paran. In Habakkuk 3:3, the words are, God came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran. The Hebrew Bible accounts of Esau is that he was red all over, like a hairy cloak, and they called his name Esau. The Edom, understood to mean red, earth, is believed by some to be equivalent to the word Esau. The Chaldees and the Essenians are spoken of in connection with the Gebalim, and both had close relationship to the god of the goddess. Brian points this out as a Kuttite radical, denoting light and fire, and one of the titles of the sun. Ancient Mythology, Volume 1, page 31. In the Irish, the word is also spelled Eazga and Eascan, the moon. Whether Esau had divine honor paid to him, we cannot tell, but it is likely as not that this word represents the word Eazga, or that the latter is formed from the word Esau, or Es. The god Es, right? The god Es is most likely Esau of Brian. It is possible that the prefix to Essenians was originally the same word, Esu, Essien, Ocean, or Ocean, are words significant of the esoteric religion taught by Pythagoras. The word esoteric itself, esoteric itself seems to be formed from them. The esoteric religion helped to form the Gabalian or Gaelic system. According to Higgins, Gebel, Gabla mean Kabbalah or tradition of wisdom. Gablam, Sir W. Drummond says, were master masons, all right, who put the finishing strokes to the Temple of Solomon. Stone squarers, they were also called. So supposedly they named them Phoenicians that he went and hired, but they were Tyrians mostly, and a lot of Tyrians were Israelites, Danites, blood too. So it wasn't just like an exterior people. So who are these master masons we're talking about then? There is a very celebrated name in Irish mythology, Goban Saed. Of him, Keane says, his name that of a class, not of an individual. Goban Saer means the sacred poet of the Freemason sage, one of the Huabres or Kabiri, Kabiri, such as you have seen him represented on the Toit de Danann cross at Clonmacnoise. He then quotes O'Brien. The first name ever given to this body, Freemasons, was Saed, which has three significations. Firstly, free. Secondly, Mason. And thirdly, Son of God. In no language could these several imports be united but in the original one. Example, the Irish. The Hebrews express only one branch of it, by Aliben, while the English joined together the other two. We may conclude from this that Esau was at least a sojourner in Ireland, and to the present day there are many places called Dysarts there. Dysarts, the etymology of which Keane gives as Dsrard or Dsard, the high place of the god Es. Esro, the ancient name for Balishannon, seems in its form, although in that not so much as it in having been the name of a locality noted for the celebration of the Druidical rites, to be the same as Ias or Isau. Besides the place being distinguished in this way, it was the neighborhood of the Raidi or Dalaraidi in Red Branch of Ulster, the Orgale or Orgal, of whom were the MacDonalds of the Hebrides, descendants of the Calavais, the MacDougals, MacAllisters, the Ruderician or Red people of Ulster, Red people, are traced to the Olam or Aleph, Hebrew, Aleph, or Dukes, as before mentioned, all right? Pretty deep. The description of Esau as a red man would seem to single him out as a progenitor of these people. Conclusion. Many old things in nature come new to us, surprise us with their apparent similarities to things we know, and we are led to imagine all sorts of parallels, correspondencies, and relations that in the end deceive. So in the foregoing pages we have endeavored to lay before our readers many old and no doubt surprising things, but their correspondencies, parallels, and relations we at the same time hold to have established. Yet, if a few of the particulars touched upon have not had all the support we should have given them, it was mainly owing to our desire to limit the book to its present size, in the hope that it is interested, in the hope that if it is interested, it would not tire. All right. She say, "Hey, I just put the info here. Hope you guys see all the stuff. If you want to pursue it, if you're interested, you know, I hope it was worth it. It's not. It would not tire. Hope it was worth it for you guys. We have chiefly endeavored to show that the Chaldean, the Hebrew, and the Celt have sent or brought down to us such unmistakably or well, resemblances. All right, the Chaldeans and the Celts and the Hebrews, that it is fair to conclude they were the same people originally. Same people originally. Can I get a mic drop? The Arphaxadite Chaldeans, Arphaxadite, the son of Shem, where Eber comes out of, Arphaxadite. Yeah, progenitor of the Chaldeans were the progenitors of the Hebrew Chaldeans, okay? Same people. and differ only in name from the first Giles, as there are some allusions in the Irish bardic accounts of Phineas Farshad and his disciples to the Gaelic and Hebrew languages. A short epitome of these accounts will not be out of place here. Hey, much love, Ambush Predator. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Shout out to everybody in Canada. Much love to all the Canadian family in the house. When the Scotic or Milesian colony arrived in Ireland from Spain, the brother of the leader was Amergin. Amer, their poet and chief brehon or judge. A judge. Remember, the Danites were judges from Amergin until the time of Fortune, and his composition, the Uraishit of Primer of the Bards, in the first century. There are many poets and legislators mentioned in Irish records, but the chief of them probably were the two named Volandus. All right, and these are the reference. Is not alone in denying that the Irish were a lettered people before the Roman alphabet came in with the Christian missionaries. He has the support of a very good scholar, the Reverend Thomas Innes, M.A., in his critical essay on the ancient inhabitants of the northern parts of Britain and Scotland. But as Dr. O'Donovan truly says, the question has not been as yet handled on either side with a moderation likely to elicit the truth. So, yeah, ancient Irish definitely had script, an ancient script, same script that is being found all over the Americas. The only difference, all right, and this is concluded by epigraphical experts, people who study inscriptions, right? The science of the study of these writings on rock and all that. They said the ones we found in America, which resemble the whatchamacallit, the Punic, the Phoenician, the Paleo Hebrew, the the Viking, the Runic, I guess I said that already, right? And the Celtic, Ogham, things like that. It's more classic, more archaic in the Americas. It's an older form than what they're found in, even in Ireland, guys. I'm not kidding. Go check out America BC. Check out the studies of the Epigraphical Society. Just Google that and you'll see. These are experts telling you it's more old. The form, the script is older. So of course, these ancient Irish had script they were, had brought from the true promised land. You know. So notwithstanding the ingenious disquisitions of these writers, Innes more especially, it is unfortunate for the cause they advocate that the world has progressed since their time and knowledge has increased. We can view the question in our day without despising credulity on one side and prejudice on the other, for both contribute their portions of truth towards the correct solution of the question. Hey, much love, Euphony American. Kurimeo, glad I can make another live. Hey, much love. Thanks for being here. The old Irish writers continually referred to their people having had the use of letters from the earliest times, from the period of the Tuatha Danann, from the period of the Tuatha Danann, the tribe of Dan, who had several distinguished poets among them. They brought it over. Agma Mac Elatain, understood to have invented one of the species of vergular characters called Ogam, and who afterwards became the goddess of poetry, Brigid, daughter of Dagda, often invoked by the poets of subsequent ages, are mentioned. All right, so was it a Danite that brought Ogam into Ireland? And we are told when and by whom the Irish letters were invented. Phineas Farshad is repeatedly spoken of as great grandson of Japhet and king of Scythia, and it is said that in Shinar he formed a school which became celebrated for the learned men it produced. His assistant Gaed Al and Er, with their master, are frequently referred to as having taught Hebrew and the other languages that began with the confusion at Babel. All right. Phineas Farshad, it seems, returned after 20 years of successful presidency in Shinar to Scythia and appointed Gael or Gael, president of the schools he established there. O'Donovan, Irish Grammar Introduction. All right. And it says that King Phineas then ordered Gael or Gadel to arrange and digest the Gaelic languages into 5 dialects, the most polished of which was to be named Berla Finn, after Phineas himself, while the language generally was to be named Gudgel, Gudheld, Geld, I'm sorry, from Gael. Phineas Farshid, we are told, reigned over Scythia over a period of 22 years after his return from the plain of Shinar. He had 2 sons, Nenual and Neul, to the elder of whom he bequeathed his kingdom, but the younger nothing but his learning. Neil for many years continued teaching in the public schools of Scythia, until the fame of his learning spread abroad into the neighboring kingdoms, and at length Pharaoh Singaris, or Sinchris, king of Egypt, invited him to his country to instruct the Egyptians in the various languages and sciences of which he was master. Neul set out for Egypt. All right, where's ancient Egypt? And Pharaoh was so pleased with him to marry that he bestowed upon him the land called Capaciront or Capacir, situated near the Red Sea, in the Gulf of California, ancient, that used to go up all the way, making California an island, the real Red Sea. You see, when they're talking about Egypt, what they're really talking about. And gave him his daughter, Scotia, in marriage. Remember, we got the whole genealogy of Scotia, from which the Milesian Irish were afterwards called Scoti. After his marriage, Neul erected public schools at Capaciront and was there instructing the Egyptians in the arts and sciences at the very time that Moses took upon him the command of the children of Israel, 797 years or 797 years after the deluge. At this time, Neul had by Scotia a son, whom he named Gael, in honor of his friend Gael, son of Etor. And from him, according to some of our historians, the Irish were called Gawaithil or Gauthiel, and their language Gawaithil, Gehel. The descendants of this famous schoolmaster, after various adventures by sea and land, emigrating from Egypt to Crete, from Crete to Scythia, from Scythia to Gothia and Getulia, from Gothia and Getulia to Spain, from Spain to Scythia, from Scythia to Egypt, again from Egypt to Thrace, from Thrace to Gothia, from Gothia to Spain, finally arrived in Ireland under the conduct of 2 brothers, Heber and Hedemon, sons of Milesius, and the 21st in descent from Gael, son of Neil. We are told in Ura, Oraishek, preserved in the Book of Lecan, that the ancient Irish alphabet did not begin with the letters ABC like the Latin, nor with ABG like the Greek and Hebrew alphabets, but with the letters BLF, from which it received its name Bobeloth, or which BLN, from which its appellation Beth Louis Neon. All right. Each of the letters of the Bobeloth alphabet took its name from one of the masters who taught at the great schools under Phineas Farshid and the Beth Louisnion alphabet. Each letter was named after some tree. For what reason, we know not. The following shows the striking similarity of sound and spelling in the names of the letters of the Bobeloth alphabet and the Hebrew proper names and their sounds. And here you got the table of the Bobeloth alphabet compared with the Hebrew proper names. Bobel, Talemon, all right. Actually, so BL, and then it shows you right next to it, right? L Loth Forum. All right, so you guys can pause it and take a look. All right. Says the reader will bear in mind what is said of Phineas Farshid having taught Hebrew, and he can then have little difficulty at admitting that the balance of probability, if not of truth, is on the side that his schoolmasters from their names were Hebrew, which, if granted, must, from the evidence we have brought to bear upon the affinity of the Celtic and Hebrew languages and people, led to the conclusion that they were of the same original. Again, I'm going to say that again, guys. Which, if granted, because their names are Hebrew, which, if granted, must, from the evidence we have brought to bear upon the affinity of the Celtic and Hebrew languages and people, led to the conclusion that they were of the same original. In the Beth Lewis Neon alphabet, there are some remarkable resemblances to the sounds of the Hebrew and Greek letters. Thus, and it shows here again, Beth, Beta, and Irish Beth, Bishtri, Nun, Neon, Ashtri, Resh, Ruiz, or the board tree, so associated to a tree. Pretty interesting. All right. The system of letters of the Chaldeans and the Hebrews, the Greeks, and the Celts must have been originally the same, coming from the same source, so called Greeks. Of course, that's a copy. Mr. Huddleston says upon this point, if the Irish had cooled or selected their alphabet from that of the Romans, as some persons have absurdly imagined, that's not true. How or by what miracle could they have hit on the identical letters which Cadmus brought from Phoenicia and rejected all the rest? Remember, Cadmus was in the Exodus, he was an Israelite. All right, remember the previous presentations, so called Phoenicia. Mr. Assel argues that Phoenician alphabet was the origin of the Hebrew or Samaritan, the Chaldaic, the Bastulan, the Punic, Carthaginian or Sicilian, the Pelasgian Greek. All these inscriptions, all these languages found in ancient America, more archaic forms of them. And Higgins in his Anacalypsis, all right, Anacalypsis, all right, shout out to Higgins. We read from that book, some great drop from that book. Observes that the Arabic, to which we have made frequent references, was a language before the present Hebrew, Greek, Sanskrit, and Devanagari letters were invented. Hmm. Suggestive explanation of some of the Bobeloth letters. So says Bobel seems to initiate language or to commemorate the confusion of speech and may be represented by the word Babel, which has a like significance. It is not a little wonderful how the word Babel has come down to us signifying to talk confusedly. Saliev, according to fortune spelling, or Salia, Valency, seems to be intended for Salah, the son of Arphishad, who, if we allow, as suggested elsewhere, to be the same as Farshed, Salah is Farshed Venus, there is not much to hinder us believing that his son became a teacher on the plain of Shinar, as contended for in Europe. David is unquestionably to be understood as David, a David. We do not consider that the first of the name was the son of Jesse. Gav, or God, the teth, is often used in Old Irish. Writing substituted for D, God, was the name of one of the sons of Jacob. Nogmer, the name of the eldest son of Japhet, was most likely bestowed upon one of Farshid's schoolmasters. Reuben, so we're talking about Gomer here, right? One of his school teachers, the Chazars. Reuben, one of the sons of Jacob, was called by this name. Ose, or Os, perhaps the genitive of the name Hosea, Oshea, which is Joshua. One of the prophets, Hosea is Joshua, guys. Etrocuus, or Esu, according to Fortune, Etro, and the book of Lecan, Ur. Esu seems to be so like the word Esau that in order to avoid the possibility of the ill-natured charging us with philological lunacy or something like it, we will not comment upon it, but leave it to the judgment of the reader. Judeamos or Judeamos, the affix of this word has a Greco-Latin appearance, but if divested of it, there is much likelihood that we have the origin of the word Judah, Judeamos, Judah, not the origin. You know, these names and their similarities are to be accounted for in one or two other ways beside the above. Someone might say the Irish had them from the Hebrews, and no doubt they would feel quite satisfied assuming this an explanation. But how get over the difficulty of the old Druidical and Chaldean rites, their traditions, the multiplicity of Jewish names of people and places in the west of Europe that withstood the shock of time, even before the advent of our Lord, and have survived to the present with stubborn adherence to the inhabitants and to the soil of these islands? Let this be answered by those only who have studied both sides of the question. They only are competent to answer correctly, or at least reasonably, all right? Do you think we fit into that category, guys, where we study both sides of this? Where's the true Canaan? So when we're talking about people going, who's the Tuatha De Danann tribe of Dan and all these people inhabiting, populating. So what came first, the chicken or the egg, What's the obvious? Maybe to this author, yeah, it seemed like everything was there. But I understand what she's saying because Abraham, with the so-called Hebrews came out of, right? Came out of Chaldea, Ireland, but he's still coming out of Shem, It's all the same. They're still speaking the same language. You know, Eber, he separated himself from the Tower of Babel, so his language wasn't confused. So he was able to maintain one of the most original forms of the language that Adam and the antediluvian spoke. Noah, right? Noah passed down to Shem. The fact of so many letters in the Bobelov alphabet having significance of Hebrew sounds and proper names, names recognizable in the early history of the Hebrew, prove the close relationship they held to the first Celtic peoples, who have preserved these names likewise. Both had them from the same immediate source, and possibly they were originally one people. That's what I was just talking about, inhabiting the same country and enjoying the same laws and institutions. Maybe when the land was connected, as people were saying, Laurasia, the similarity, even as we know them in the present day, is apparent alike to Jew and Celt. The Celt, like the Hebrew, was from time immemorial obeyed the ubiquitous instinct of his nature, and gone hither and thither over the world. For centuries before the Christian period, he is found wandering over the earth, and in the 19th century, his nature is as unchanged as the Hebrew. Dispersed over thousands of miles and separated in place as well as in time, they have lost their original race identity, and even at this hour are only beginning to catch glimpses of their prehistoric oneness. That's a deep one right there, all right? A little bit of Irish in all of us, huh? Chaldean, Hebrew, so-called Hebrew. The sooner philologists, the sooner philologists and inquirers after truth direct their studies above the prejudice of school and university, the sooner the Celtic tongue and archaeology will be acknowledged to claim their close attention. The sooner, too, will biblical students find their way out of the labyrinth of contradictory interpretations by which they are enclosed and walk in the purer and clearer atmosphere of research, all right? True research. And ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of this book. Wow. 2 years. Took us 2 years to read it. Well, at least me. Because I'm reading it with you. I hadn't read this, every time I do a recording is the first time I'm reading it. All right. So go ahead. If you've been with me in the last 2 years, or at least watched my videos in the last weeks, you read the whole book. So give yourself a pat in the back. All right. Applause. Yeah. Good job, guys. You guys read a whole book. You guys read a whole book. Have you guys, any of you ever read a whole book like this? Would you even read a whole book like this? Sit down and read a whole book like this? Well, you did. You did, man. And congratulations that, you did it. And we did it. A lot of drop, in this book, Ireland or the Chaldees. We can connect it with other videos we have. All right. Again, let me go back. So this is the whole playlist again. If you want to watch it in parts, Ancient Ireland, go to my playlist tab. You also got Israel and the nations of Europe. Go ahead and check that series out if you guys haven't. Part 1, 2, and 3. It's gonna fit real good with this book, the information we read. And also, I have, I believe, a video, Nations of the World. Let me see, Nations of the World. So this one right here, which is Nations of the World, Chaldeans of Arphashad, Ur, Kasdim, Keset, Shem, Abraham genealogy. That was, I did this video before I even read this book, so I didn't even know what was in this book, but it actually correlates a lot with this book. So make sure to check that one out too. All right. So again, you saw what I did. I just put Nations of the World. I mean, if you put Nations of the World, Kurimeo, you probably get the whole series. This one right here, actually, Origin of the Nations of the World. It's not, all the nations yet. We're still going with that playlist as well. and it's not like specific stuff, but it is very good information if you like into that. Um, make sure to check that out. But once again, thanks for tuning in um, and taking the time to do that out of your Thursday and your evening or your morning or wherever you are in the world. I appreciate that. Thanks to all the supporters. Shout out to the Patreons, my moderators, the Telegram back chat people. Shout out to everybody that supports, that's enjoying this, and I'm enjoying being able to bring this information out like this, and that people actually excited about it and stuff. Because before I didn't grow up reading books. Like I didn't even like reading, guys. Now I got so many books behind me. I've read. I never imagined I would be reading so much. So thanks for being here once again. We don't just got one book. We try to read from many, and we try to put it all together with our knowledge, our discernment, and our wisdom. We gotta ask for wisdom instead of money. We gotta ask the Most High for wisdom instead of money. I just want to leave it at that. Much love and respect. You know, hold on, guys, hold on. We gotta go with a little music. Always gotta leave with a little music. Shout out to everybody that came through for real. Shout out to everybody that came through. I think we got it even I think we even got a new beat that somebody sent me. Hold on. Somebody sent me a new beat. I think it was Red Lion Pacana. Yeah, Red Lion Pacana. I think he sent me a beat, guys. Let me see. Yeah. Let me see.
Robin Drake.
Okay. Hold on. This song right here is called Lost and Found, all right? Lost and Found, which fits perfectly with all this information. The lost and found people. The lost and found people, huh? The lost and found people. So again, congratulations, you read a whole book. Thanks for reading this book with me, guys. We got so many books to go that we're like in the middle of. We're gonna go ahead and finish those and start new ones and all that. A lot of good information. We're gonna put the videos eventually together, all these books, all these readings with all the information that we're gathering, and we're gonna have a clear story, more precise than just having assumptions and beliefs and conjectures and all that, and just generalizations and biases, honestly. Ireland does play a big role, guys. Ireland does play a big role in ancient times, but a lot of its people came from ancient America too. While America had people in villages and stuff, a lot of parts of Europe were still underwater, and we've gone over this a lot. The oldest land in the world, oldest land confirmed by geologist Louis Agassiz, is the Laurentian Mountains, right there near the lakes in Quebec and all that, in Canada. And hey, in ancient times it was connected. It is on its way, I would say, could connect to Ireland and the British Isles in ancient times. So yeah, it makes sense that people would be over there in ancient times as well and play a big role with the ancient world. Yeah. So hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for tuning in once again. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Pura vida. Hey, Frank and Jules, thank you very much for the donations. Really appreciate it. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow, wow. Robin Dre beats with bite.
Robin Drake. Bye.